If we don't keep learning, if we don't give ourselves the gift of knowledge, then we'll remain a defeated people. So whether you're Samoan, whether you're Hawaiian, whether you're Mexican, whether you're Indian, any kind of culture, the culture starts in the mind, right? So if you think that you're defeated, then you will remain defeated. If you think that you're intimidated by someone else because they came from a certain family or they came from a certain breed, right? Then you're going to live according to what your mind is telling you.
Welcome back to Hawaii Real, everybody. I have with me the owners and operators of Tanoa clothing shop located you guys have a location in Pearl Ridge and one at the Ohana Marketplace in off of Ward, that old Sports Authority.
That's right.
Yeah, so I have Aaron and his lovely wife Cindy Forsgren.
Yep.
Forsgren.
Swedish.
Yeah, I was like, what does that mean? But you had a great explanation for what it means in Swedish and how it translated into Samoan, and there's a great backstory on that.
All right, so what it means is it's Forsgren, which is kind of like forest green, which stands for like a new sprout or a new leaf, new beginning, right? And so we actually have a family shopping center in Samoa that my parents call Laufo, not knowing that a Swedish person visited Samoa one time and pointed out to my father and said, do you realize that your family name and your shopping center name mean the same thing, Laufo, which is a new sprout or a new beginning? And so it's kind of interesting that our last name meant the same thing as our family business without not intentionally doing that.
No intention involved. So that's like one of the funny things about like the universe. It's like, was that coincidence or is that like something else going on? I don't know.
I like the something else going on.
That's the something else, getting the spiritual aspect of it.
Sure.
Yeah,
Why not?
Because you were telling me that you guys met working at film production at
Word of Life
Church, right?
Yeah.
So automatically you guys have a spiritual background.
Definitely. Yeah.
Kind of thing going, right?
Yeah.
What's been going on with this pandemic? One of the main reasons I wanted to get you guys on is because I just recently saw you guys on Facebook. Somebody posted a video of you guys talking about the shutdown and how you guys had opened up, and within that same day, not only your store, but a number of stores in that marketplace were just shut down.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of building the frustration for store owners and restaurant owners and stuff here in Hawaii.
So, I mean, what happened was the owner of Ohana Hale, he called up the COVID hotline and he spoke to somebody there and he explained to them how he was explaining to them how Ohana Hale Marketplace is all under one roof and we're basically all open. It's like, if you wanted to walk through and grab stuff from somebody else's booth, it's open. It's not like secured, right? So we're like one big store. And he was telling the COVID hotline task force person, it's like a Walmart, it's like a Target where we're all several different categories under one roof. And the person got off the phone, went and checked with their superior, came back and gave the approval, said, you guys should be good to go. He comes and tells all the vendors, I got approval from the COVID hotline. We're good to open. So we were excited. So we, reshuffled the whole store and got organized and we opened up and people were excited to come out. We had a great turnout of customers, of course, following all the rules that we're put in place. 5 people in the store. Everybody has to wear a mask. We have the shields. We have the hand sanitizers. We have everything. No dressing rooms, no trying on the clothes. We're following all the rules that were put in place. And within a few hours, by 12 o'clock, we had several police officers and city workers coming in there. And one of them even came up to our store and started yelling at our staff. And my mother-in-law was working and said, what are you getting so mad at? Why don't you just talk to us? Just tell us. Other officers were quite calm. And, so anyway, we were all frustrated. They told us we needed to shut down or they're going to give us a citation. So we followed the rules. We shut down. But, the frustration was just built up. And, you got to realize that in business, the first shutdown was rough. We had just purchased all this inventory for the Merry Monarch Festival, right? And it all arrives just in time to be shut down. So we get it. The first shutdown was like, everybody's kind of like, it's a guessing game, really. It's like we're all on board. We want to do what we got to do. We follow all the rules. We did everything we needed to do. Then we get reopened and we're still following all these new rules that are in place. And it's great. We're starting to recover. We're starting to, make money again. And, it's not even about making money for a profit. We're just trying to recoup the losses that we incurred, right? And then the second shutdown. And it was just kind of like, you know what? Enough is enough. And, part of the real frustration for us was that you'll go to a big box store and they're jam-packed. I mean, there's lines out the door and there's thousands of people. It may be several hundreds. Okay, I'll be fair. Several hundreds of people. That's safe. But you come to a place like Ohana Hale Market, we don't have thousands of people walking through there, but that's unsafe. And it's just kind of like there's just too many inconsistencies, and we just were voicing our frustration.
What about your shop in Pearl Ridge? Was that shut down or opened up?
Yeah, that was shut down as well.
Is anybody opened up at Pearl Ridge?
I don't believe
food vendors,
so.
I think.
Food vendors?
I think it's the food vendors that are on the outside of the buildings, not you cannot enter in and go to the food vendors.
No, because didn't they have like the movie theaters open up? I know Ward Theaters or something.
They opened up for like half a second. I think. I don't even know if they really opened up. They announced they were opening and then shut down. So
it's got to be tough on them too.
Yeah. One thing that was great about the video, and it kind of went viral, I suppose you could say, but there was so much support. And it made us realize that there's, not that we didn't know, but there's so many other people in the same boat. And there's so many people that are frustrated and just kind of fed up. And you're like, okay, we can't have this knee-jerk reaction. We have to find another solution that's a little bit more scientific. If it's follow the science, let's follow the science. Why don't we focus on certain segments that need more attention and put the resources in those areas, and the people that are healthy and they're low risk, allow them to work, because we're not just working just to work to make big bucks so we can go buy some mansion. We're making a living for our families. We're making a living for our staff. And, one of the other things that was frustrating is that one of our managers, she got laid up. We had to lay her off, and she went to apply for unemployment in March. She only received it in August. So what if you're a check to check? If you're going to shut down, if that's the reaction, then get all your T's crossed and your I's dotted, right? So that the people that you cut loose, they have something to fall back on. So that was frustrating.
Yeah, it's a huge frustration. I think with your guys' video going viral, it's like you guys are saying what a lot of people are thinking.
Right.
And, people are just, here in Hawaii, we're not super vocal all the time.
Yeah.
So for your guys to come out and voice that was kind of a relief, and kind of like, yes, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. And this is super frustrating. Help us.
Yeah.
When
the first shutdown happened, we pivoted. A good business person, they try to adjust, they try to pivot. And so one of the main things that we did was we really focused a lot on our website, and we redid it from ground up and everything. But there's only so much pivoting that you can do, right? You need to open up the way for us to just survive on our own. We don't want the government's help in that sense. We don't want free handouts. We're not looking for more PPPs. We just want to open up. Just let us stand on our own 2 feet. And it's not about just complaining and complaining. We're not complaining and complaining. We're just frustrated.
Yeah, I think that was the difference. Like, you guys weren't complaining.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just kind of a meandering, blah, 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 blah kind of thing. It was like, no, this is a legit gripe that is not just affecting you guys, but is affecting so many other businesses.
Right.
And a lot of restaurants, a lot of businesses have had to shut down permanently.
Yeah.
And more are going to be shutting down on the way, right? Hawaiian Airlines is laying off people, as I heard, cutting back and stuff like that. So I don't know. I mean, we do, like you said, you have to open up in protective ways and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, we do need to just open up and start letting people have their business, make their money, not look to the government for subsidies or anything like that, and stand on their own 2 feet. Like building the business Tanoa from scratch is what you guys have built, right?
Right. And there's other people that have built their business, taken decades to build a business, and they finally get the engine running, right, and going, and then it's just like monkey wrench thrown right in there. And yeah, and you look at it at the end of the day, how much hurt, and we have the death counts. Yes, it's terrible, it's tragic, but there's also how many businesses have died. And when a business dies, it's not just the business. It's not just one person. It's a father and a mother who are now stressed out. How do we pay our mortgage? How do we pay for our kids' schooling? How do we feed the kids. And then there's the stress that the kids experience because the parents are stressed out. So it's just it's not an easy thing. It's not an easy decision, but yeah, it's tough.
So going back to your business, Tanoa, when did that all start? And how did you get involved in making a clothing line? Do you have a background in clothing or not at all? And you're telling me off camera your background. I was like, what?
So back in 2000, 2002, we have a family shopping center in American Samoa, and the entire shopping center burned down. And there's a whole story there. I don't know if I want to get into that, but yeah, it's pretty funny and not funny at the same time. So 2002, my wife, Cindy, and I, we moved back and just to help rebuild. And our family business was a department store that kind of sold everything. And so one thing we used to do is go to trade shows and we'd buy ready-made garments. And our people in Samoa, they're not small, they're big, right? And so when we go to these trade shows, all the vendors, they stop at 2X. Once in a while, they go up to 3X, and our people are like, why don't you get big sizes? And like, because they don't make them. And it's just like, they don't make them. So there's an opportunity right there, right? So if you solve a problem, there's an opportunity in that. So we don't have any background in production as far as that goes, but when we were in Hawaii, we learned at the church that we worked at, we learned Photoshop, we learned graphics, and so we took what we learned there, and we said, you know what? I'm a bit of an artist, she's a bit of an artist, not anything spectacular. I'm not going to win any awards, but hey, enough skill and hard work, and man, you can make something great out of that, So we took the skills that we had in graphics and started slapping on prints on shirts. And it's funny because the people that were in production, they came to our store, and we had meetings with them, and it was just another one of those coincidences, right? This vendor that we used to buy from years ago, he shows up with another company that he works for, and they're really good in production. And so we sat down just when we decided to start Tanoa, the Tanoa brand, and they knew production, we knew what we wanted to make, and it was a great cooperation, and it just grew from there. And we make all the sizes up to 7X now.
7X?
Up to 7X.
Like 4 people.
Yeah. We still get people, hey, can you make them bigger? Like, man, no.
What are they using these for?
Yeah.
Yeah, there are some dudes that are that big, yeah?
Yeah.
What does Tanoa mean?
So Tanoa, you want to explain that or you want me to explain?
Go ahead.
Oh, man, I'm talking too much.
Yeah, let it go. Come on, Cindy, go.
Yeah, you give it a go.
So a Tanoa in Samoa is it's basically just like a kava bowl, right? Or an ava bowl. So we thought of Tanoa as being a way to connect Polynesians around the world. We didn't want to just... I think all of us know that there are more Samoans outside of Samoa than there are in Samoa. So we thought of it as a way to connect not only Samoans, but other Polynesians, whether you be Tongan or Hawaiian, and we all kind of carry the same bloodline from our Polynesian ancestors. So, but a Tanoa is a kava bowl or an ava bowl where in a ceremony, the chief normally mixes the ava, and it's just a gathering place, and it almost identifies you as you're welcome into this Polynesian circle. So we wanted it to be just a symbol as, if you appreciate Polynesian design, then you belong, wherever you are, you belong to your islands. And I think a lot of people, if you have that sort of a love for Polynesian things or the islands, wherever you are, you long to have some kind of connection. So we thought of, whether you're in Iraq or in Alabama or Japan, wherever you are, you can have a piece of your belonging, and if you love Tanoa, if you love Polynesian things, then it's just that connection. So
she's Hawaiian, I'm Samoan. So it was kind of a great thing because it's coming together of two cultures, right? But then we didn't want to just only include Samoans and Hawaiians. It's a Polynesian thing because basically we're all Polynesian. I mean, all the islands, we all kind of come from the same area.
And let me tell you, like, before I moved to Samoa, I didn't really know a whole lot about Samoan culture. But I grew up in Hau'ula, so a lot of my neighbors were Samoan, and that's just about all that I knew. When I moved to Samoa, I was pregnant with my first child. We have 3 now. I realized that Samoa is really just kind of like what Hawaii was maybe 150 years ago, maybe 125 years ago or so. But the culture is so raw and just so real, and I really appreciated that. I kind of felt like I was meeting my ancestors, and I think Hawaii has been a little bit watered down with all the different influence and just the modernization, whereas you go to Samoa and there's still the village life, there's the deep respect that I think we all need to learn. I learned a lot more respect, like a lot more cultural things, and probably more like native behaviors that probably my great grandparents used to teach to my grandparents, things like that I think it's important for our kids to learn, like simple things like when you walk in front of like an adult, you bow and you say, excuse me, or tulo, right? And I mean, I saw my friends telling her kids, oh, when you walk in front of Auntie Cindy, you always say tulo, say excuse me, and you bow as a sign of respect. And I thought, oh, that's kind of overboard, right? But then the more I saw it, it's just part of the culture. That's just what you do. And if you don't do that, then you're considered disrespectful. So I thought, how important is that to teach our kids things like that? So yeah, things like that. I think it's really important. It was important for me to see that.
All right. So Tanoa has a bunch of, has a very symbolic meaning in Samoan, and you're talking about Polynesian culture. Off camera, we're talking about some of the limitations, though, to like maintaining super close connections to how things are done in the past, as far as like entrepreneurship, thinking outside the box, or anything like that. Have you guys been able to reach into Samoan culture or Samoa in Samoa and try to get more entrepreneurship to come out of Samoa?
Yeah, definitely. There's so many beautiful things about the Hawaiian culture, about the Samoan culture, but there's also some things that we recognize as being negative, and you can see it. It's the young people don't have a voice. You're not worth listening to unless you're 60 plus years old, or you're ready to go to the grave almost. You're still a little kid. Be quiet, go sit in the corner. And what that created was a lot of people they've put limits and they've capped themselves, and they don't even believe in themselves. And so one of the things that we did back home was we created this group called Roots, and we would meet with 30 to 50 plus young people and just give them principles to live by, but also just to open up their mindset and help them to believe that you can achieve things. We're not just football players. You have a brain, and you have a very powerful brain. If you just exercise it and you feed it, there's amazing things that can come out of that new leaf, right? If you plant some good seeds, some good flowers will be produced. And really a lot of the Holbeck is just a mindset, a way of thinking that be quiet. I cannot do that. That's for them. That's for those people. We cannot achieve that. We cannot, be business people. We cannot be doctors. We cannot be lawyers. We can't do that. That's not for us. We just run our race, and that's our race. And we try to tell them, break that. All it is simply a mindset. And once you change that mindset by a few degrees, if you change the course of a ship, just a few degrees, give it a little time, and you'll recognize how far that course has been changed. And so amazing what can be produced out of just changing a few small things in your mind and taking off limits. And that's one thing we really saw. And we really love to see some of these local artists that were in Samoa, and all they know how to do is draw on paper. We're like, no, don't limit yourself with that. Learn the computer. It's not that intimidating. It's pretty easy. And now with YouTube, you don't have to go to college. You can just watch YouTube. In fact, one of our main artists, she was a girl that was coming to our church, and I walked into a back room one day, and she had painted this mural on the wall. And I was like, wow, we need artists. You're an amazing artist. And so we talked with her, and she just knew how to draw it on paper. And we said, you know what? Come into our office. we'll teach you the basics, but then we're going to give you a laptop. You come to our office and you watch YouTube, how to use Illustrator. Now she's our main artist, and she's amazing. And the amount of when you see her eyes open and she's just like, wow, I can do this. And now she has a career in that. And all it took was just a little bit of sprinkling of a seed in her mind,
Mm-hmm. I think on that note, Io, you and I are both Kamehameha graduates. You're 96, I'm 93.
Oh, she outed us.
Yes, we're there. So we know the gift that Princess Pohi left for us. It's a huge gift, right? How can you repay something like that? But I think the foresight behind that gift was just the knowledge, that if we don't keep learning, if we don't give ourselves the gift of knowledge, then we'll remain a defeated people. So whether you're Samoan, whether you're Hawaiian, whether you're Mexican, whether you're Indian, any kind of culture, the culture starts in the mind, right? So if you think that you're defeated, then you will remain defeated. If you think that you're intimidated by someone else because they came from a certain family or they came from a certain breed, right? Then you're going to live according to what your mind is telling you. I think the connection that we had early on was that we both thought differently. I'm from Hauula, a small town on the east side of Oahu, and we're just a little community of local people. And I can say that for myself, I felt that intimidation toward the townies. I felt that intimidation toward other people who didn't grow up in the country like me. And so I was one of those people who were taught, oh, don't shame, don't try something big because you just might shame yourself. You might shame your family, and, just stay within your bubble and stay safe. And this is what we do. And I think the question was always like, why not? Why can't I? Why can't I achieve it? Why can't I achieve that? Why can't I do that? So I think the challenge was always go for it. I got one chance at this life, right? I got one chance to just go for it. Why not go for it? And the only difference is, what are you willing to learn? And so if you're willing to learn something, if you're willing to apply yourself and just commit to it and just learn the process and keep your eye on a vision of what you want to do, what you want to achieve, what is that purpose? Planting a purpose for your life or a vision and just saying, I'm going to go through it. I'm just going to do it. And not really caring what the critics are going to think, and going for it. As long as I'm in the arena, I'm going to fight for it. I'm going to let this be my life's journey. So I think along the way of being learners ourselves, and using ourselves as lab rats and
guinea pigs, yeah.
and learning as much as and even planting ourselves back in Samoa and learning as much business, the regimen of running a business from his parents. It was a long process, but doing Tanoa now, one of our main goals is just to build a healthy business, a financially healthy business, not just to say, oh yeah, we love art, we love design, we love fashion, and we're going to do a fashion show and all this kind of great fun things. But what do the books look like? It has to make sense. And so having, fashionably sound line, that's a good brand, but having a sound business as well, that's really important. But getting back to it, having that mindset of having a vision for your life and just shooting for it. I think we wanted to implant that into the young people in American Samoa, because there wasn't as much exposure or opportunity as maybe we were given. And we just wanted to share that and see what kind of harvest we could get out of that. And it's been great.
Yeah, it's been really good.
Yeah, because there's that story about the elephant that as a young elephant is tied to a stake with a chain. Mm-hmm. And then as that elephant gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it knows that it can't get anywhere far from that because it's tied to the chain. Yeah. Into adulthood, now it's just tied with a rope.
Right.
That elephant could easily break that rope.
Yeah.
But it's been trained in its mind that it's tied to that stake. And that's kind of where a lot of people in Hawaii that I've seen, you guys have seen, traveling around the Polynesia, we need to break that rope.
Yeah.
You're not chained down.
Right.
Especially, like you said, YouTube University is the next big thing.
huge.
You can learn literally anything. You want to learn a new language?
Right.
YouTube, it's free.
Exactly.
You need to have a device and internet connection, but beyond that, all that information, dating back of human history is being uploaded to YouTube constantly.
Yep.
There's nothing stopping you.
The funny thing is that sometimes people try to make things seem intimidating. I've had younger people talk to me about business and, man, I could never do that. So I'm like, that's a bunch of baloney. That's what people sometimes want you to believe because they want to sound like they're fancy. It's like, like when you go to a winery, right? And they stir it and you sniff it and you swirl it in your mouth. I went to a winery one time. The guy's like, if you like the taste, drink it. If you don't like it, don't make it so intimidating. It's the same thing with life. It's like, it's not as intimidating as we make it out. And when you start off small, you realize it's not that hard to make it a little bit bigger. Make it a little bit bigger. And before you know it, you have this huge thing that's going on. You're like, where'd that start off? It started off with a small step. And sometimes we're afraid to take that small step. And that small step is just in the mind. And it's not as intimidating as you think.
Yeah, Cindy, you brought up a great point before that about shame and how here in local culture, it's like, don't be shamed. Don't do anything that's going to shame you or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But you have to. If you're going to break through that ice and break that chain, you got to do something that's going to be, somebody's going to think that's shameful,
Yeah.
Like putting on the podcast. It's like, oh, you're going to, don't be ashamed because nobody's going to watch it. It's like, not going to stop me from doing it.
Exactly.
Right.
Just I'm sure you guys had the same kind of fears about, starting a clothing line. Hey, who's going to buy this? Who's going to wear this?
Right. Oh, definitely.
All the time.
Yep.
All the time. You're like, what am I doing? How is this even beautiful? Or what are we thinking?
You become your worst critic.
Your worst
sometimes,
critic. Yeah.
What's that phrase the saying that we just read out, that we just saw? It doesn't matter. Basically, it says, doesn't matter what the critic says. What matters is the guy that's in the arena. You're always going to have critics. And at the end of the day, who cares?
Yeah.
Yeah. One of my things with critics is like, if a critic, it doesn't matter what a critic says. It matters that the critic is saying something about you.
Yeah. That's
true. Bad news is still news, right?
Publicity is publicity, right?
Yeah. Bad publicity is still publicity.
Or what Eleanor Roosevelt, she said, one of my favorite quotes is, no one is allowed to make you feel intimidated without your consent. So if you're experiencing intimidation or fear or shame, it's all on you. Get your mind out of that and just run.
Yeah.
So whatever you need to do to get your head in the right place and start running, that's what you need to do, right?
It's your life. You have one life, right? You may as well make it great. That's our point of view.
Yeah.
The other thing about Tanoa is that you guys, you're talking about building those really big aloha shirts, and that you found a niche where like nobody was filling that gap. There were clothing lines all over, but there was nobody building like big print shirts for the big people. So that was one of the things that you guys tried to fill, and that led to, starting the whole line. How does somebody go about finding their niche or finding their problem to fill?
It's hard to give it's not a cookie cutter thing, but I think there's a phrase that's even from the Bible. It says, without vision, the people perish. If you're not looking for something, it's a good chance you're going to find nothing. But if you're looking for something, there's a good chance you're going to find something. So I think first thing they need to do is just have a mindset that they're looking, and you just live your life. Is there an opportunity there? Is there opportunity there? Is there opportunity there? You just look and constantly look, and sooner or later, you're going to find something. But if you're just twiddling your thumb and not looking, and good chance you find nothing. So I can't say what works for you. I can't say what works for the other guy, but I can say looking works, period.
That's great advice. Looking for that problem to fill.
Yeah.
Sometimes that problem is like right in front of you and you don't see it because you don't see it as a problem.
Right.
Until somebody maybe points it out to you, or I don't know. Like me, I have a hockey company that, I had a problem that I wanted to solve. Nobody else in the world was solving this problem. And, one of my main things in my mind was I was still attached to that chain. I was like, I can't build a build or start a process to patent the product or even invent the product. And, it took a lot of pushing for me to actually dive into it. And once I did, and I just had a vision of doing that, man, it just took off. And I was just like, yeah, I'm going to do it. And people say, no. I was like, too bad, I'm going to do it.
There you go.
And I'm going to fail, but I'm going to do it anyways. Yeah. I may fail. I may have a lot of hurdles. I think one of the reasons people don't get into things is they're afraid to fail.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think one thing people they have to realize is that, okay, you make a decision to go forward with, say, an idea, and that's not necessarily the final idea, because once you go down that path to go after that idea, all of a sudden another idea opens up and another idea opens up and another path opens up that would have never opened up unless you took that first step. But when you take that first step, all of a sudden you see there's 2 other steps. Then you take those 2 steps and like, hey, there's more. And so that's why they say it's once you start making money, it's a lot easier to make more money because more opportunities open up because you've opened your mind to look for ideas and to sniff it out. And you kind of get a better skill of recognizing an opportunity and recognizing a dud, but nothing happens until you take that first step.
Yeah, agree. I totally agree.
Yeah.
It's that first step is the hardest. It's like jumping off the rock at Waimea.
Yeah, right.
You do it one time. Like the first time you jump off, it's like, right. You do it one time.
Smacking your arm as you hit the water, right? And then the next time you realize, hey,
that wasn't so bad.
Then you throw in a backflip, right?
Yeah. So it's about jumping off that rock, the first time. You see other people jumping off the rock, they're fine.
Right.
Yeah, they may, do a belly flop and get, red tummy, but they're fine. If you jump off, you're going to be fine too. Yeah. Same thing with, starting businesses and stuff like that. You may fail, you may hurt, you may find pain, you may make friends, lose friends, but you're going to be fine.
Right.
I think something to remember is just to also just run your own race. I think you can look at other places for inspiration, but there comes a point where you just stop looking and you just focus on what you're doing, and then you just run your race. If you look at too many other people that are doing similar things to what you're doing, and you see them succeed in one area, you're going to want to copy that. Or, oh gosh, they're like getting tons of hits, with this that they're doing. Oh, I'm going to try to, do that. But continue to reinvent yourself. I think you have to understand that you have enough ideas and you have enough creativity in your own brain that if you just run your race and stay in your lane and have good, genuine mentors or friends that are around you who can give you honest opinions about what you're doing, then like what you're doing with the hockey equipment, I think, run your own race, and the next thing you know, you can have one more product to add on. And something that nobody's ever done before, and that's exclusively your idea.
Yeah, I like to run your own race because otherwise you get tossed all over the place and you're trying to go after all these different things, and it's like, that's not who you are. That's not what your company is.
Don't get confused. Yeah. Stay in your lane.
You're spinning all these different plates that you can't keep spinning. Yeah.
What language did you take at Kamehameha?
Spanish. Mm-hmm. So, I took 7 years of Spanish.
Really?
And I don't speak any of it. Yeah. It's hard because you don't use the language. You just kind of lose it. Right. Yeah. And when I went to UNLV in Las Vegas, and even there, I used it very little bit, but everybody spoke English.
Yeah.
So I didn't really use it. And then come back here and nobody speaks
Spanish.
Right.
Although when I go to LA, everybody speaks to me in Spanish.
You look...
Yeah, they all think I'm Hispanic.
You look, I would say Cuban.
Cuban, yeah.
Cubano. Does he dance well?
No.
No, he doesn't dance at all.
So not Cuban then?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm trying to break that mindset, right?
Oh.
Everybody has their little blocks.
I can't dance. I'm not going to even try. And I'm Puerto Rican, but...
You ever watched the documentary about the Polynesians made in Taiwan? That's the name of the documentary, Made in Taiwan. So they traced back the DNA testing for Polynesians, and they traced it all the way back to the indigenous people of Taiwan, not the Chinese, but the local people. And they went there, and there's still some indigenous people of Taiwan. And I tell you, they look like our staff. We were looking at people like, wow, that's our that's Miriama. That looks like this. And they have a haka. Their words are very similar to Samoan, Hawaiian, Maori, all very similar. Their number system, pretty much the same. It's like, wow, it's a trip.
Yeah.
They look Samoan.
It was made by Pacific Islanders and Communications. Yeah, made in Taiwan. That was really interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we all came from Taiwan and sailed all over the place.
Or did we colonize by Taiwan?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either, right?
Right.
It was like there's
The
stuff
Mongolians, they also, they can look, some of them can look pretty Polynesian.
Yeah.
Really?
Well, if you look at like even Samoans, the difference is like Samoans have more chingy eye
Yeah, some of them do.
versus like Hawaiians are a little bit more like, like softer eyes. Like,
Yeah.
like your chingy eye, like, eh.
Because
I got too much white blood in
Yeah,
me.
yeah, you do.
yeah, I would not have pegged you as being Samoan.
Yep. The Samoans don't peg me as being Samoan either.
I get that from Hawaiians too. It's like, you're not Hawaiian. It's like, yeah, okay. I mean,
Hey, like Palangi. Then look at the white man, Just, you swear at them in Samoan to let them know that you're Samoan. Yeah.
is there any like racism kind of stuff that goes on over there?
Yeah, definitely. The funny thing is, it's racism towards Samoans. So Samoans from Western Samoa, which is now Samoa, are discriminated by American Samoans. Although we're all related,
How does
we all
that
have
work?
family back and forth. If they find out you're from Western Samoa, it's kind of like you're lower class. Because they have so before, when Germany occupied Western Samoa, Germany did a really good job in colonizing the island. They trained people and all that. American Samoa was kind of like that American colony, the Navy thing, and it's just the Navy Navy harbor. That's all it was. They didn't invest in the infrastructure of the island. It was kind of like this little peon island, and so they were kind of like frowned upon. You're from American Samoa. That's a crappy island. Then American Samoa, some reporter wrote a Reader's Digest story about how poor the American government is doing in their own colony. And so the American government started pouring more money into American Samoa. All of a sudden, they started thinking, now we're the ones that got the money, you poor people over there, because they're an independent country. And so now to this day, there's still that discrimination. It's very felt, which is so
Bloods and the
strange.
Crips.
Yeah.
That's super interesting.
Yeah.
It's that bad, like Bloods and Crips kind of thing?
I mean, not to the point where they're killing each other, but there's definitely like a...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Is there violence towards each other?
Not necessarily physical. Not like
Okay.
we're going to go beat you up because you're from there, but there's definitely a look down
Yeah,
on.
there's definitely discrimination.
Yeah. American Samoa is an interesting place. It's got its good things and it's got its frustrating things. And yeah. I'm from Western Samoa, born there, but I'm a U.S. citizen because my dad was born in San Francisco. So I was born there, but I also claim I'm a U.S. citizen. So then they don't, okay, you're a U.S. citizen. But if I didn't have that, then it'd be kind of like, you're just a Western Samoan. They also don't realize, I mean, in business, it can also be a negative because, I don't want to support a Western Samoan business person. I want to support an American Samoan. It's like, I am.
But I'm Western Samoan American.
Yeah. So there is discrimination.
Yeah, I think you kind of see that everywhere.
Yeah.
To some point.
Everywhere is going to, humans are humans.
Yeah.
There's always going to be some level of it, but it doesn't stop us from thriving in American Samoa. It hasn't slowed us down at all. Water off a duck's back, right? Just critic, go stand in the corner. Who cares?
No, that's a good point of view. That's great. Like in business, you can't let anything stop you. If you have an idea and everything, just push towards it.
Yeah.
And you're going to find all those hurdles.
Yeah.
So what was like one of the big hurdles for you guys growing through Tanoa? Not including the pandemic shutdown.
Not including that. Just the time was probably the biggest hurdle. Just balancing out, okay, it's time to go home and leave the work at work. Because there's always stuff to do. There's always things. I mean, especially even when we moved here, because it started in American Samoa, we expanded into Western Samoa, expanded into New Zealand, and now 2 stores here. The just the designing side, the accounting side, and all that. It's just there's always stuff to do, and it was just okay. I need to remember why we're doing this. Spend time with the kids. So to be honest, the pandemic the first time around was actually kind of a little bit welcome in a sense where we started going out to her family's from Haulu. We started going out to that side and spending time at the beach and spending time with our kids a lot more. And it was actually kind of good. So
I think one thing about doing Tanoa is realizing that you have to, as an owner, especially in a different kind of industry than what we've known, right? Like I studied journalism and he was in accounting and in retail, but now we're in design. Now we're into building a brand. And you think that, okay, maybe I could just hire somebody who could do this part of it. Maybe I could hire somebody who could do this part of it. I think the real reality is that we had to learn everything ourselves. And we're still learning everything ourselves and just being the best at what we can, for our business in every area of it, whether it's the graphic side of it or the styling or, learning how to be a pattern maker. That's what I'm doing during these few closure weeks that we have. I spend my time doing master classes in tech design and master classes in other things like regarding specifications of styling a garment and measuring and doing it properly. So I think, if you own something, I think it's really important that you know that you be the best person at a lot of different areas of your business. And if you do hire someone, then you could almost call them out like, okay, no, I think you can do, or you're not doing that, or you could do that better, so know your business the best.
I think, what she's saying is that have some knowledge in it, because that way you can pass it on. Not to have the knowledge so you do it all the time, otherwise you stifle your growth, but it's have the knowledge in it so you can then hire somebody for that. And they can't just say, well, you should be doing this. And you're like, no. Okay, this is how we want it to be done. And it's not just like fluff, right? It's actually, you know what you're talking about. So you can also then pass that work on to somebody else and it's effective.
What is your life philosophy, if you have one? Everybody has one, but if you dig deep and look into how I want to live my life, what would your answer to that be?
I think for us as Christians, I think is our faith in God and allowing that to bleed into how we act towards each other, so that we can help to raise our kids in a way that we think is proper. So I think, sometimes you can't just put things out of order. I think the faith part dictates the action, and then we also pass that on to our kids. And there's some sort of guidance so they're not being tossed and turned with every, so that we're not emotional people running all over the place. We have some sort of structure, some sort of guidance. Mm-hmm. And we can also say, kids, okay, you're allowed to make mistakes. Definitely. You can fall, you can do this, but let's get back on track after a while. And this is the track that we want to follow. And so we have to lead that by example.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I definitely along the same train of thought is understanding that we're leaving a legacy, whatever it is, whatever decisions that we make. And of course, we're not perfect, but how do we adjust those decisions that we make? Or how are we, how are we living? What's our lifestyle? What are we choosing to do? What kind of a legacy do we want to leave? Because we're not here forever. And so I think understanding that perspective, it just, it changes your daily,
I think, growing up in business, my parents were in business and it's kind of like assumed that we're going to be in business, right? That's why I was running away from accounting, because my dad said, every business, every organization needs accounting. So you're going to go do accounting. And I went and did accounting, and I try to stay as far away from it as I can. I still have the knowledge there, and I do apply it to our business, but I've hired accountants, right? But I think I don't want my kids to follow in my footsteps just because it's my footsteps. I want them to be who they are. And so we try to raise that to them. Look, opportunity is there, but you don't have to. We want you to be the best you that you can be, because that's where you'll find your happiness, is if you're gifted in something, go for it. But this is here as well. That legacy is there as well. If you want to jump on board and apply your own taste or your own way of doing it, we'll get out of the way and let you run with it. But we want our kids to be who they're designed to be.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, Cindy, thank you so much for coming on to Hawaii Real. It's been great. It's very inspirational, very emotional, a little bit of goosebumps in there. So thank you so much. It was kind of a short notice getting you guys on the show, but I wanted to just extend my gratitude for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having us. We really appreciate that.
Thank you so much.
Wish you guys nothing but the best of luck going forward, and hope you guys open up soon. Come on, open up Hawaii.
Yeah, open up Hawaii.
All right, everybody. Stay happy, Hawaii.